Okay, so let's get started. Today's topic is Android graphics, actually Android 2D graphics. So we are going to mostly focus on 2D graphics, but before we do that, let's look over Android graphics capability. So Android support both 2D and 3D graphics. So 2D graphics APIs are found in drawable package, and for 3D, it supports OpenGL ES package from Kronos and some Android OpenGL utilities. We are going to cover 3D in another presentation and hands-on lab, so we are going to mostly focus on 2D graphics. So let's move on how to draw 2D graphics on Android platform. There are two options of drawing 2D graphics. Option one is drawing into a view, or typically image view object. So if you are using a view object, you can draw to a background of a view object, or you can set the content of image view object. In this case, the drawing and actually an animation as well of your graphics is handled by the system in a normal way. So it will go through the view hierarchy of a view. Typically, the root is going to be a view group object, such as a linear layout, and then it will traverse the tree structure of that view and then draw things in sequence. The option two is that you can draw your graphics directly using canvas object, and so we are going to take a look at each of these options in a bit more detail in the following slide. So let's move on. So option one again, this is a good choice when you have a very simple graphic such as images, shapes, and things like that. And simply in the sense that it does not change that often. So if you're not building performance intensive kind of game type of application, then this option is probably a better choice. So example is that if you are drawing a static graphic into a view or image view, then this is a good choice to use. So we are going to try a couple of exercises from the hands-on lab to get the sense of what we are talking about. Again, here we are trying to draw graphics through image view. So two exercises, resource 1 and resource 2. So let's try to run those two application. So this graphics image from resource 1. So let's run this one first, and then we are going to take a look at the code. So very simple graphic is being displayed here. Okay, so let's take a look at the code. So this is a main activity, and here we have created image view object programmatically ourselves, and then we read image resource. So we have a Duke image resource, which is a PNG file located on the drawable directory, and then we basically set that resource to the image view. So very simple. And then we are adding that image view object into the linear layout. So here we are doing everything programmatically. Okay. Now, second example. So this is actually doing pretty much the same thing, but is going to create image view object from the layout file. So once we see the result, we are going to take a look at the code. So here we are displaying various shapes, and each of these will be drawn through image view object. So let's take a look at that code. So this is a main activity and is reading shape drawable one resource file. And if you go to shape this resource file, so here we have image view element, and here we are providing source of the actual image file, and we have image view, and so this is image view displaying a line, and then we have so we have a bunch of image view elements. So that's what you actually seen here. Okay. So in the first example, we were creating image view programmatically, and the second example, we are reading image view from a resource file. In both cases, we are actually drawing something through image view object. So that's what we just learned. So let's move on. So option 2 is using canvas. This is a bit more complicated, but you have more control. So you want to use this option when your application needs regularly redraw itself. So meaning, if your application has to redraw things quite often, like a video game, this is an option that you want to use. Now, in this case, in this option, there are two different schemes that you can use. One is creating your own custom view, and the second scheme is extending surface view. So the difference between these two is that in the first case, you are using your own UI activity for drawing, while in second scheme, there is in fact a separate thread that is actually being used to draw things. Okay, so let's take a look at each of these in a bit more detail in the following slide. So first, we are going to take a look at the scheme of we're actually creating custom view, extending view class. Now, before we move on, in both cases, we are going to use a class called the canvas class. So canvas class is pretty important class to understand when you're using this scheme. So canvas class contains a set of draw calls, and you can use these draw calls to draw things. Now, in order to draw something, there are four basic components that are needed. So of course, you need a canvas object, and canvas object deal with a bitmap. So you need a bitmap that holds the pixels. And then you can use some drawing primitive. So you can draw the rectangle, path, bitmap, and things like that. And there is also what is called the paint object that contains information about the colors and styles. Okay, so we're going to take a look at an example of this in the following slide and demos. Okay, so scheme A, so this is the first scheme. In this scheme, we are creating our own custom view. Now, when you are creating your custom view, meaning you are extending view class, you are going to override onDraw method. So onDraw method is being invoked by the Android platform. So when Android platform calls your onDraw method of your custom view class, it will pass a canvas object. Okay, so by using canvas object, you can draw things. Now there are two different schemes, even in this particular scheme, there are two different ways that you can use canvas. So you can use a canvas, the draw method. So there are a bunch of draw methods, draw bitmap, draw picture, and things like that in the canvas class. So you can leverage draw methods that are provided by the canvas. So in this case, this is an example. If you happen to have a bitmap object, you can call draw bitmap method of the canvas object to draw things. And this is the location, X and Y location. And this is a paint object that you can specify the color and style. However, another thing, another way you can do is that if you happen to have a drawable object, okay, for example, the shape drawable object, then you can call the method, draw method of that drawable class. So you can use either of this scheme, okay? So let's take a look at examples. So the first demo is we are going to see how we can use draw method of a canvas object that is passed to onDraw method of your custom view class. So that canvas object is being passed from the Android framework. Okay, so let's take a look at the alpha bitmap 1 example. So alpha bitmap 1. So let's run this one first. So this is what you see. Okay. Now, if you take a look at the code, so here, this is your main activity, and we are doing pretty much what we normally do in onCreate method. So you know what? I'm gonna actually use the hands-on lab documentation. That's probably a bit easier to see. So we are looking at this one. So this is what we have seen, right? So what we have done is that we created a custom view class called the sample view, and you can see it extends a view class. Okay, and then in our onCreate method, when we call set content view, we are passing our custom view object. Okay, so we created our custom view object, and that's what we are using to set the view. Okay, so here what we do is we are going to read the image. So drawable app sample code is basically this image, this one. And we read it as input stream, and from that input stream we are going to create a bitmap object. So if you see mbitmap, that's basically bitmap object. Okay, now this is onDraw method. So this is the onDraw method that you have to override in your custom view class. So this onDraw method will be invoked by the framework, and when Android framework calls this onDraw method of your custom view class object, it will pass your canvas object. Okay, so you can use various draw method of your canvas object. So you can set the color, and then we create the paint object. We are not doing anything special with the paint object. We just need the paint, the empty paint object. And then we basically call the draw bitmap method of the canvas object, passing bitmap. So this is an example where we are using draw method, draw xxx method of a canvas object to draw something. Okay. And this is the image. Okay, so that is that. Now, the next example is, this is an example where using draw method of a drawable class. So instead of using draw method of the canvas object, we are going to use the draw method of the drawable class. In this case, we are going to use what is called the shape drawable class object. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Shape drawable. So this is the one. So let's run the application and see the result, and then we'll take a look at the code. So it's very simple, the application, just drawing these things, okay, this thing. So let's take a look at the code. So I'm looking at this. So this is what we just saw. And this is main class. So here we just have new view object. So again, this is our custom view class. So this is our custom view class called the custom drawable view extends view. And we are basically doing the same thing here, just having that view object instance and then pass it to set content view method. So in this case, we created what is called the shape drawable object from shape drawable class, okay, passing the oval shape. And then in our onDraw method, instead of using canvas object to draw things, meaning calling draw method of the canvas, we can use the draw method of the drawable object instance. So this is another way of drawing things onto a canvas. Okay, all right. So either one is fine. Moving forward. Now, there is actually what is called invalidate method that you can call. So as I said before, Android framework will call onDraw as necessary. So when your application is, active and then it gets hidden, then when it pops back again, then onDraw method will be invoked. However, you can ask the platform, you can ask the framework, Android framework, to redraw, when you think is the right time to redraw by calling invalidate method. So what it means is that, you're basically saying my drawing at this moment is invalidated. So I want the framework to redraw my graphics. Okay, so that's basically what is happening. So this indicates that you like your V to be redrawn, and Android will then call onDraw method, even though it's not guaranteed that the callback to your onDraw method will be instantaneous, but it will be invoked by the framework. So let's try to run this sample application. This is shape drawable sample application, but this time we are going to call invalidate. So this application. So as you can see, the drawings will be actually kind of shrinking. Okay, and then it will be starting all over again. So basically, what happens in this code is that every, some interval, every, I think, a half a second or something, I invalidated my drawing so that the platform, Android framework platform, will redraw my drawings. So that's what's happening. So let's take a look at the code. So shape redrawable invalidate. So this is what you see. So here we actually draw a lot of things, so you can see we have an array of shape drawable, okay, and then we actually pass the different shape, okay, so that code is not that much of a big deal. And this is our onDraw method, okay, and we are basically changing the width, okay, so we are subtracting 10 pixels every some time interval. Now, what's important is this. So, so every 500 milliseconds, half a second, we just sleep half a second, and then we call invalidate method in our onDraw method. So at this point, whenever I call invalidate method, I'm basically saying Android framework that my drawing at this moment is not good. So I need it to be redrawn. Okay, so that's basically what the invalidate method is all about. Okay, moving forward. Now, the second scheme is using extending surface view. So it's a special subclass of a view that offers the dedicated drawing surface into view hierarchy. But important aspect of this scheme is that it has actually secondary thread. Okay, so it's not using UI thread, but it's using its own thread. Okay, so application doesn't need to be application isn't required to wait until system's view hierarchy is ready to draw. Instead, secondary thread is going to draw on its own pace. So basically what you do is that you are going to extend the class, extend the surface view class, and you also implement surface holder callback method. I'm sorry, the interface. And its interface is basically have a lifecycle method for creation, change, and destroy. Okay, so let's take a look at let's do the exercise. So this is an exercise camera preview. So let's run this one first. Okay. Looks like I'm having some issues. I'm gonna just go back and run this guy one more time. I'm going to just close this guy and try again. So in the meantime, let's take a look at the code. Oh, yeah, this is an exercise I added just a few minutes ago. I didn't actually add in this list, so I'm gonna just go over all the way here. So this is what you should see. So let's see if you're actually seeing that. Okay, so still doing it. Okay, so this is the code. So here we created our own the surface view class object called the preview, and it extends surface view and then implements the surface holder callback. And basically, it does have lifecycle method called the surface is created, surface is destroyed, and surface is changed. Okay, so basically you are implementing this lifecycle method. Okay, so this is where you are going to actually redraw things. Okay, so let's okay, so that's what you see. All right, so I'm going to, so let me see whether I'm done with the presentation. Okay, so let's go over the hands-on lab, some of the exercises that we have not covered. So we just covered exercise 1 and 2. We covered exercise 3, and let's move on to exercise 4. So this is a little bit different from the one that you have seen. So it's green color, and then we have reddish, the shape of this. Okay. So again, the idea is pretty much the same here. We created a bitmap object. Now this time we are just extracting alpha values of the from this PNG file. Okay, and here this is an example where we are seeing how to use a paint object. So we create a paint object. As I said before, paint object is used to set the color and the style. So this is where we can set the color, the paint. And then we are using draw bitmap method of the canvas object, passing bitmap object, and then we also passing paint object that contains the color information. Okay. All right. The next one is, yeah, so this is a bit more sophisticated. Well, not that much. So we have a circle, and then we have some kind of, the shade, and then we have text. Okay. So here we have bitmap object. Okay. Yeah, it's actually bitmap object, not from any kind of images. We're just getting this some kind of alpha, the based bitmap object with a size. Okay, so we create a bitmap object from scratch. And then we actually using that bitmap object to draw something. So we are going to call draw into bitmap method, passing that bitmap object. Now, this bitmap object is being used to draw something. So whenever you draw something, you're going to again use a canvas object. Okay, and you can use a paint object. Okay, so here we draw the circle, and then we also draw the text. Okay, and then we set a few kind of, let's say, properties of those things. Okay, and then we have onDraw method, which is invoked by the Android framework. And basically, then here is an example. We're actually using shader. So this is a shader object. We are using linear gradient. Yes, a linear gradient object. Okay, so that's the reason that you are seeing this linear gradiency here. And we are setting it with a paint object. Okay. and then we are just passing the bitmap object. So this is a little bit more complicated than the previous two examples. I'm going to skip this picture layout, and I'll probably cover at the end. So let's move on to 7. Yeah, so this is something that we have seen during the presentation, this one. Okay. So again, we have custom view object, right? And this is an example again using draw method of drawable object. Okay, so drawable object has a draw method, and you can just call that the method passing canvas object. Okay. And this is the case that we are also setting the text. So the same thing, but we just have a text javapassion.com. So here we are seeing example where you can call the draw method of drawable object, but we are also using canvas draw text method of canvas object. Okay, so as I said before in the presentation, you can use either method, like a calling draw xx method of the canvas, or you can actually use the draw method of drawable object. Okay, so you can see combination of these two can be used in a single on draw method. Here we are drawing a lot of things. So, this is something that so you can see we have array of drawable object. Okay, so shape drawable, you can pass the shape object as an argument. So this is a bit of, this is very similar application, but with a multiple drawable object. Again, we are calling draw method of the drawable object. And this is the example we have seen. So it's the same application we just have seen, but we are calling invalidate method in our onDraw method. Okay, so every 500 seconds, we wait 500 seconds and then we call invalidate method. And this is another example. We are just drawing arcs. So let's actually run that application. Looks like it's taking its time. Okay, here we go. All right. So basically, it's going to just redraw these 5 arcs. Okay. So let's take a look at the code and we'll just come back. So here we again create the custom view object extending view, and we have yeah. So basically we are using this onDraw method, and we are using draw color method of the canvas. And then we have draw arcs method. So again, we are using canvas object to draw rect and draw arc. So, and then we are also calling invalidate method. And so, basically it's supposed to do this. Okay. All right. This is a label view. So again, it's the same scheme. So we're just displaying 3 different labels with the different background colors. So here we have custom view layout files, so this is a case that we have our custom view class called the label view, and then we can create a layout resource file using that custom view element. Okay. And so it has the text value attribute here. Okay. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It is actually using, the layout resource file okay, so this is the label view class. So again, this is the custom view class. And here, yeah, one thing that is interesting is that, this is the code. When the label view object gets created, this is the constructor, okay? It actually gets the text value from the label view text attribute, and then it's setting the text. Okay, so if you actually take a look at that code, which one are we looking at? Oh, label view. Okay, label view. So let's take a look at the resource file. So this is the resource file. So, the label view, custom view resource element, and then text is set as I'm red, right? Now, when you take a look at the generated code, the resource file, you can see it actually generated label view underscore text, okay, as a reference. That's the reason you can use this one in your code. In your code, you can actually use like this. Okay, so this is our stylable label view text. All right. And so again, we have onDraw method, and then we are using onDrawText, the method of a canvas object passing text object. Exercise 13 is something that we took a look, so again, basically it is lifecycle method that you have to implement, okay, to draw things. Okay, so I think one exercise that we haven't talked about is picture layout. Okay, so let's just spend a couple minutes and then I'll take a look at the questions you guys ask. Yeah, so let's actually address the question from Samit. Is there a way to draw curves, custom shape, or yes, the answer is yes. I mean, the Android platform comes with a set of built-in shapes, okay? But you can certainly create your own shape and then pass it to, the the shape drawable class, okay? All right, so this is picture layout. So this is what gets displayed. Again, you can see we have 4 identical shape in different positions. So we have alpha bitmap. Now we are extending graphics activity class. This is our own activity class that we are going to see in a few minutes. So this is the graphics activity class. So you can see it has set content view method, and then it's using picture layout object, and then picture layout object is basically view group object, and when you call the add view method, you're basically passing the view object as a child object, and then you are actually setting the view object and then passing the view object as a view. Okay, so going back here, so alpha bitmap here is again we created our custom class called the sample view, and then in our sample view constructor method we created 3 bitmap objects. Okay, so each one is representing, in fact, one of these items. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so in fact, those are the things that we created in previous exercises. And and then we basically have onDraw method. So each onDraw method will be invoked to draw this one piece. Okay, but what's happening is that we are using picture layout to draw 4 of this. So if you take a look at the picture layout method, picture layout method is a view group object. And so the important method here is that dispatch draw method will be invoked for each child view. So what's happening is the picture layout is the parent, and then actually this is actually the inside of this one, it will actually call draw picked method of this guy for the one of, so depending, it's actually providing the location. So whenever you call the draw picture method, it will call one of this one, and this one in different location. Okay, so it's actually a different location. So this is actually called just once, and inside this method, we are actually drawing 4 different the child views. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's the end of today's